Have you ever wondered what would happen if all the world's pressure points just gave way all at once? Well, we're going to dive into one single fictional day in the near future, March 12th, 2026. A day where a chain reaction of crises pushes our whole interconnected world right to the very edge. And it all kicks off with just a single devastating number, 168. That's how many children were reportedly killed when one missile hit a school in Minab, Iran. And this one tragedy? Well, it becomes the human epicenter of our story. A story that's going to spiral out and touch almost every corner of the globe in just 24 hours.
So to really understand how everything spiraled so fast, we have to start right there, at the crisis epicenter, the direct military conflict that set the entire region on fire.
The first spark? It was a coordinated operation. U.S. and Israeli forces launched a whole series of strikes against key Iranian military sites. Now, the stated goal here was to weaken Iran's air power in the region.
And these strikes came in fast and hard. One of the first major targets was the heavily fortified Parchin military complex.
Then, another strike hit Bandar Abbas Air Base, which is a really critical spot for Iran's Air Force down in the south.
And they also hit the Dezful Air Base. So you can see this was a pretty comprehensive attack, really designed to cripple Iran's military capabilities.
So, did Iran retaliate? Oh yeah, but not in the way you might expect. Their response was spread out, using drones to hit civilian and economic targets across the Gulf. We're talking Kuwait's International Airport, even a luxury hotel in Dubai. The Saudis did manage to shoot down 6 drones heading for a major oil field, but the message was sent loud and clear. No one in the region is safe.
And almost immediately, the conflict spilled over Iran's borders. The situation on the Israel-Lebanon front just exploded. Hezbollah launched a huge barrage, over 200 rockets into northern Israel. Israel then responded with an airstrike on a beach in Beirut, which led to a lot of civilian casualties. And boom, just like that, a whole new, very dangerous front is wide open.
Now, this kind of military action, it never just stays in the military world, right? It sends out these ripples, these shock waves. And the first one, well, it slammed right into the global economy.
And what was the direct cause? A single, defiant statement from Iran's new supreme leader, who publicly promised to keep blocking the Strait of Hormuz, which, is one of the most critical choke points for oil on the entire planet. The effect was instantaneous. Global oil prices shot up, surging back over that critical $100 a barrel mark. A single statement, and suddenly you've got tremors going through every single market on the planet. And look, this isn't just about pain at the pump. This is hitting businesses hard. Brand new data from the Census Bureau shows the damage. Transportation? That sector is getting hammered, rated as severe. And it just cascades down from there. Retail is worsening. Manufacturing is looking negative. The whole global supply chain, which was already pretty fragile, was really starting to crack.
So, you've got military escalation, you've got an economic crisis. Of course, the world's leaders have to jump in. And believe me, it was a frantic scramble on the diplomatic and political fronts.
The G7 nations, with France kind of taking the lead, put together a 3-step action plan pretty quickly. First, condemn the attacks. Second, form a joint naval task force. And third, start figuring out the incredibly complex job of escorting commercial ships through the area to try and restore freedom of navigation. Meanwhile, the Trump administration saw the crisis as an opportunity for another agenda. They used all this global instability as a reason to launch major new trade investigations into China, Japan, and about a dozen other countries, citing unfair trading practices.
Now, while all eyes were on the Gulf, something else really significant was happening, almost under the radar. For the first time in 6 years, passenger trains started running again between Beijing and Pyongyang. It was a very clear signal of a big strategic shift happening between China and North Korea.
But, geopolitics and economics, they're only part of the story of this single day. We've got to widen the lens to see the broader toll, the human, and even the planetary toll, because other crises were happening at the exact same time.
A seriously dangerous weather event was building over the western United States, a massive heat dome. Basically, this is where a high-pressure system acts like a giant lid on the atmosphere, trapping hot air and just causing temperatures to skyrocket and stay there. And to give you an idea of just how insane this is, look at this chart for LA. The average high for Los Angeles in March is a really pleasant 69 degrees. The forecast under this heat dome? A staggering 100. For this time of year, it's not supposed to happen. It's totally unprecedented. And while the world's attention was focused on the Middle East and the U.S. weather, other terrible tragedies were striking. In Ethiopia, devastating landslides killed at least 102 people. And in Iraq, a U.S. Air Force tanker went down with 6 crew members, making a difficult day for the military even worse.
So when you put it all together, March 12th shows us a world that is stretched to its absolute breaking point. It's a day defined by this feeling of tension everywhere, playing out across all these different domains.
And this tension wasn't just physical. A new report came out from Finland's National Security Agency, and it flagged a huge increase in cyber espionage from Russia and China. So there's this invisible conflict heating up, targeting critical infrastructure in countries far away from the actual fighting. The conflict even seeped into sports and culture. With the World Cup coming to the U.S., President Trump actually said publicly that it might not be appropriate for Iran's national team to even participate. The standoff was making its way right into the stadiums.
So let's recap. A military flashpoint, an economic shockwave, an environmental crisis, a diplomatic scramble, all happening in a single day. Each one of these events pushed our global systems to the brink, and it leaves us with this one crucial, kinda unsettling question for the future. When the world fractures this much, what breaks next?